Welcome to the In the Tank podcast. Get ready for an hour of hot 40k goodness coming in your ears. You're in the tank now, baby.
We're live!
We are indeed live. How you doing, my man? You okay?
I'm great, mate. How are you?
I'm very good. Welcome, everybody, to In the Tank episode 19. God, have we got some dishy topics for you today.
Oh, don't we just?
But first of all, we got to catch up on our old hobby news and what we've been working on. So what have you been working on, Ed?
Oh, I've been working on all kinds of stuff. Now that we can actually say our hobby projects. I have been doing a bit of the GSC, slowly getting there with them now, which is good because obviously we've only got a couple of weeks until, or like 3 weeks until the event.
It's a month actually. It's about a month.
It's about a month. So we got a bit of time. So yeah, I've just been slowly slugging my way through those when I've had time. Been quite a busy last week with the double podcast release. So we're had a lot of stuff going on, but we're getting there now. So yeah, I think give it a couple of weeks, should have them finished probably. Knowing me, I'll be doing it the night.
Probably, maybe. Let's do it.
Yeah.
No fair play. No fair play. Yes, no, because I'm doing pretty much the same, mate. I'm getting my guys ready for the doubles event. And then also I've got my Into the Maelstrom event afterwards, which is a day tournament where I'll be running first company detachment. So all the Terminators, hashtag all the Terminators.
Yeah.
Whilst also building Legionnaires because I have Legionnaires disease, apparently, Ed.
God. So for those of you who haven't seen, Russ did this stupid little short the other day where he goes, I've got a disease, Legionnaire's disease, and he opens like a drawer full of Legionnaires, Chaos Space Marine Legionaries, and it's just fucking exploded. It's like our most viewed short ever. It's had like, how many views is it? It's like nearly 6K or something stupid like that. Ridiculous.
I love that.
The algorithm is just inexplicable. Doesn't make any fucking sense. But clearly it loves giggling Russ. So yeah, that was quite funny.
I love how you would spend like an hour on a perfectly conceived short, and then Legionnaire's disease just gets it. It's so funny.
Yeah.
So funny.
No, fuck that. I'm not going to bother anymore.
No, fair. But I think that I am predicting for me that 2025 is going to be the year of chaos for me. Where I finally go like, Shawshank Redemption, like, take me Chaos Powers, where I actually will probably play, I think my objective is to play Death Guard for the first time at an event.
Wow.
Which is weird for me, being Dark
cool.
Angel's boy, but I'll do it. And then also to get my 2K's worth of word bearers together as well. So I think next year, 2025, is going to be my year of chaos, I think.
Yeah.
Fallen hard.
Chaos has more fun.
Fallen hard.
I'm convinced.
Well, we'll see. So that's going to be quite cool. And just getting there with my various hobby products for tournaments, really. So there we go. Dad Hammer at its finest.
Yeah. One model a day. No, one model a week. Yeah. Sorry.
We were talking to Quipster on our guest special. Obviously, check that out now. It is available.
Yeah.
And also, speaking on that front, I'm going to get it in early. Like, comment, subscribe. Just tell us that you love us. Like, we've been having some great community stuff
bells
recently, but get our good old bells stuck in there. But there we go.
Bells.
So, but check out our awesome bonus episode with Quipster. That was well fun. Bless him. Yeah, I've decided that for future episodes with guests, I'm going to get a tangent honk.
That's
horn.
Such a great idea.
So like if we ever get onto tangents, like I'm gonna and I'm gonna have it like by the side of my desk, so I'll get that.
It was so funny because he talked so much so he actually ran his voice out by the end of the episode. Like he was just coughing away, bless him. He was buggered.
But bless him, he has such a gorgeous voice. I was just like, oh yeah, nice.
No, it was a good episode. If you guys haven't had a listen to it yet, give it a go because it was fun. We had a good laugh.
It was fun.
Yeah. Really fun.
But yes, we do need to talk some hobby news. And there's actually been two really interesting things here. And I feel kind of bad because it was going to be a mostly pro GW week for a change. Oh my God, for long-time listeners of the channel. I know, exactly. And I'm going to but compliment GW now, and then I'm going to criticize GW because there was something that happened where like the world ended like a few days ago for a certain community of GW's, you know, addicts. So the first one, new kill team box.
Yeah.
So there's a brand new starter set kill team box, which I would argue is the best value box that GW has ever made in the modern era, quite frankly. It's something like 65 or 67 pounds, and you get a load of MDF terrain in there. You get 2 kill teams, one of which is a really cool Space Marine Heroes Ultramarines kill team, which went for silly money, went for like 40 or 50 quid on their own and was like a Japan exclusive or something, which was like a load of random Marines, one in like Gravis armor, one in like the Phobos armor with like an eliminator sniper rifle and stuff, and a lieutenant. So if you wanted a lieutenant for your normal like games of 40k, it's stuck in there. I don't know why you would mind, because we all have like 30 lieutenants just hanging around. Frankly. I know, we need more lieutenants, please. Yeah. But more excitingly, the other half of the box is the Death Guard Space Marine Heroes Japan exclusive stuff, which is the mono pose but like fucking stunning Death Guard models with the Playcaster thrown in. That was that was uber hard to get, to the point where people were like seeking
he was like
third party like printing. Yeah, well, he was going on eBay alone for like 90 quid or 100 quid. I managed to get one before it went all crazy. But he's thrown in there as well. So you get like the rule book, the 2 kill teams. That's crazy. So in
they're
all
really
fairness,
cool models as well.
Yeah, really cool. That's a great box. What do you think about that, Ed, in terms of like...
Yeah, I'm keen for it. Yeah, I'm splitting it with somebody, actually, just to get hold of those Death Guard Marines, because I've already actually got all the other ones. So I've kind of going to probably convert a couple of them here and there into other Marines, because although they're monopage, you can do some sneaky conversions here and there. So that's what I'll probably do. And then I've just really wanted that Plaguecaster, because I've got a 3D print version of him, but I don't 100% trust it. So I you know, it's a bit of a shitty China cast job. So I think this one will be the legit deal, and that means that I've got like 2 plague casters, so I can do the party bus where you stick them in a rhino and just be like, so that's quite fun. Yeah, that's the plan.
Plague Marines love a party bus.
Oh, they do.
They're slow boys, anyways. They love. I need to get a dredge party bus, because like
you do with those little screws. Yeah, love it.
Yeah, the little screws.
Yeah.
So that would have just been the news in general, right? Which would have been mostly positive, and I would have walked away from that this week and gone, "Well done, G-Dolls, you did a good job, yeah."
Yep.
But something hit 2 days ago, which basically set the specialist games section of GW alight, which was an update concerning Lord of the Rings. Now, obviously, this isn't a game that I play at all, really, although I used to, especially not competitively or whatever. But there was a massive update concerning models that are essentially being turned into Legends models.
Yep.
And that GW won't be selling anymore and won't have supported rules going forward. They call them legacy models, which I find quite funny. And basically that involved anything that wasn't necessarily directly on screen during the Hobbit / Lord of the Rings movies. You've got like a lot of Easterling shit in there, a lot of Haradrim shit in there, a lot of really cool Rangers stuff, or like just a lot of really cool models that people were running in competitive lists that
they culled a lot.
Just you can't. They culled loads, like hundreds,
but
of these.
I assume, right?
Yeah, go on.
Sorry, go on. You finish your point, and I'll jump in.
No. You carry on. Carry on.
I assume that they're not going to redo these models. I think they've already stated that because a lot of them, as you said, are kind of, they weren't in the films, etc. But I assume that they're going to add new miniatures, because they already are with their new box set, right? They're adding a load of stuff, and I think that they're going to keep. So I suppose, in many ways, depending on how they handle it going forward, I know that it's kind of set their community aflame because a lot of people have obviously spent a lot of time and, invested a lot of time and money getting those models, some of which I'm sure are probably quite rare to get hold of anyway, because a lot of them haven't been made for a while. It is always shit, having had that done to us in 40k recently with lots of culling, like it's always a shit feeling when that happens. So I kind of get why people are outraged at it. But like it's, I'm assuming that they're going to get new models down the line. You'll probably get like Orc with Baby from the Amazon TV show. Or
I think that's the problem though, right? It's like I think that might be something that might be pissing people off, in as much as like they may not want that necessarily, right? Where these guys are probably going to be like old school Lord of the Rings fans, like whether you like Rings of Power or not, like it's been quite a divisive show. You just like
no, it has, hasn't it? Do you reckon they're going to release a model called Definitely Not Sauron, and then they'll do an elf version as well, Definitely Not Sauron 2?
Fucking hell. or not to get, because I actually quite like Rings of Power, or like Sauron goo. It's just like a little pile of goo on the face, like Sauron goo. I don't know if you've seen that, but he turns like spoiler alert. He has like a goo moment.
Fine.
He turns to like black goo and like literally like goes down a mountainside. So like there we go.
Lovely.
But yeah, like for me, it's a shame because I think it's pissing off an already quite small and niche group of gamers, right? Where they're very loyal and they're like keeping that game alive essentially via their reason for, and it feels like if you divide that community up even more, you're playing chicken with an already sort of dying community, and that's not a wise move.
I think they're going to revitalize that dying community with, by the sounds of it, some redone rules and obviously, new models as discussed. So hopefully, although yes, this is a bit of a shit blow for some people who have been playing the game a long time, it's also probably a great thing for the wider game in the future, because at least it's actually going to get some support now, because it's kind of just been sat doing its own thing for the last 10 years, right? They've done some releases here and there, like they've done a few new models that I've seen, a smattering of heroes and all that sort of stuff, but they haven't really redone the rules for a long time from what I remember. So it'll be quite interesting to see. I hope they don't fuck that up. That would be really bad if they fuck the rules up, or go too far away from what it is meant to be.
Well, I think they recently redid the core rulebook with the recent box, right, that came out. Right, that wasn't
is that the
Rohirrim box? It was the box. No, it was the box before that. It was the box before that.
Oh, right, okay.
Where it was like the Faramir versus the orcs at I can't remember what the city was. Osgiliath, where it was outside Minas Tirith, and all of that Rangers versus orc nonsense. There you go. So you're just testing my Lord of the Rings knowledge there.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not like as up with the game as you are, clearly. But
I don't think that many people necessarily are unless you're part of that community. But like, I don't know. I think GW are just playing with fire here, and it's like they are getting a second sight. So I don't know. It could be also licensing stuff, but I don't know. I think they should have just warned their community a bit more. If they would have given them like 6 months notice and gone, look, this is what's going to happen. Don't invest in it. Like just.
It's the same with all the Forge World cuts we talked about as well. Like people just were like, World Eaters just lost like half their army. Loads of people had all these different World Eaters models, and they were like, "Yep, can't run any of that now." That was a bit shite because it all just turned to
considering how awesome those were as well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially how awesome those ones were.
Yeah,
shame.
Yeah,
shame.
Well. We'll see what happens. Shame.
Yeah, if you do play Lord of the Rings, let us know how you feel about this.
Are you outraged?
I think it's.
Are you hopeful? You must never let go of hope, even in the darkest places. Remember that.
Oh, nice.
Oh,
awesome.
Yeah.
Speaking of hope, then, lad, and sometimes the inversion of hope, which could be described as toxicity, maybe.
Oh. That was a fucking tenuous link. That was really. You try for a wet blend and you just snap your brush. You're like, fuck it.
Like that came out. Like that was a harsh blend. That was a raw blend.
I enjoyed it.
So are you ready to enrage the entire 40k community? Are we going to do this?
Let's do it. Yeah.
So hypothetical question to you, Ed. Is the 40k community toxic, and have we noticed a change in it over
fucking
the years?
cesspit, mate. To be honest, I think that I wouldn't say toxic is the right word. I would say dramatic is probably the way I would describe it. Divisive too, for sure. Divisive is a very good word. I think that you are very bang on there. I think that this community is very split between, sort of your sticklers for the old school stuff, the old guard kind of guys who don't want a thing to change and they want everything to be as it always has been, and et cetera, et cetera. And then you've got people who are a bit more of the sort of new age of gamers who, a bit more loosey-goosey with it, and they don't mind all the sort of retcons here and there and all that sort of stuff. And I think that it's not just, by the way, it's not just talking about law changes here. I'm talking about the wider community. Like, people love a bit of fucking drama in this community, especially in the competitive scene. My God. Like, if anyone cheats or gets caught, fucking around with dice or anything like that, it is like an instant, like, character assassination. The whole fucking internet just comes down on them, and there's like people jumping in to defend them, and it's mental. So I do think, I do think there's a bit of, maybe toxicity here and there for sure, but like, it's just drama. People just fucking love the drama in this community.
Yeah, even in more chilled communities, like the sort of beer hammer communities where they get like anti-competitive, where they're like, this shouldn't be a competitive game either, right? Where it's just, it's kind of mad. Just to kind of show my hand on this, like, I have never known a gaming community that is so pendulum on both ways. Well, on one hand, I have never been a part of such a lovely, caring, sort of inclusive community where, like, people want to support you for doing the thing that you love to do, right?
100%.
At events or with people where, like, you build a model, and the amount of effort required to, like, get a model built and then get a model painted and then get that on the tabletop and to play your opponent is so much higher than just buying a video game or buying a deck of cards for a TCG or trading up to a game of cards or whatever. That that your opponent has put so much effort to even be there in the first place. So as a community, you tend to be like, yeah, man, that's really cool. Or, yeah, you're doing a great job, and high fives and stuff. And that's lush. That's way more than I've ever had in other gaming communities where people just don't give a shit. It's like, yay, your character that you play in a game is now green. Like, good for you. Do you know what I mean? Like, you've got a great skin. Like, great. Like, get fucked. But with this, it's like, that's a really cool painted model. That's a really nicely converted model, or whatever. On the flip side of that, I've never known a community be so, as I said, divisive and so, like, loud about stuff all the time. And and do you know what? The ironic thing is, it kind of includes me in this. And, like, I say this potentially being a little bit guilty, that, like, every week I kind of go, oh, what's you done this week? Do you know what I mean? Like, and that's not in an effort to, like, ensnare people. It's like, it's just generally my thoughts on what's going on in the community. But the fact that I have that opinion is just aggressive, right? And it's just like, it's just mad. Like, and I don't know whether it's because, as we've talked about in a previous episode, like, 40k has been such a niche hobby for so long that we have that, like, caveman tribalism associated, where we're like, no, like, this is my thing. Or what? What do you think about that? Like, why do you think that is?
I think it's like a little bit of nostalgia driven. And I think that because this is a hobby that's so close to people's heart and has been for so long, a lot of people have played this when they were younger and come back into it like we did when we were older. Not everyone, but a lot of people have. And I think that you get so protective of this space and this hobby and the what it means to you as an individual, because everyone's got a different journey. Some people just fucking paint models and they never play the game. They don't give a shit whether it's competitive driven or whatever. But other people, they'll play Beer Hammer with their mates and they get pissed off that it's, that they're writing, the rules writers are like driving the competitive side of this game more than the, like, casual side of this game. Because arguably the casual player way outweighs the competitive players. I think that, like, they're like the people that go to tournaments around the world are like 2% of Warhammer players. maybe a bit more nowadays, maybe like 5 or something. But there's a fuckload of people that just play Warhammer with their mates or their families or whatever, their friends. And I think that people are protective of their version of the hobby or how they see it. And that's what causes this sort of divisive arguments, because like what I love about this hobby might be slightly different to what you love about it. And then if James Workshop comes in and changes something that fundamentally sort of fucks up my vision of the game, I'm going to be like, bullshit, fuck that. And you're like, oh, this is the best thing ever. So, and I think that's kind of where it comes from. So you're always going to have it. And there's like you said, there's a lot of loud voices because people are passionate. And wherever passion is involved, people get loud. Like, look at video games, as you said as an example. Like you can earn skins in games or buy skins in games, and people like to represent themselves. But when you've spent countless fucking hours painting an army or several armies, that investment of time. If Games Workshop then turn around and go, oh, we're axing like 3 or 4 of those models you've just spent 2 months painting, you're pretty well within your rights to be pissed off about it, So and I can see why it happens. So yeah, it's an interesting one. I don't think it's, some people are just toxic bastards, right? You just get those sort of people in every sphere. They just want to fuck people about, troll people, wind people up, just be arseholes. Unfortunately, you're going to get that everywhere. But I do think for the most part, people just love this hobby so much that they're overprotective of it. And that's where a lot of these arguments start to pop up from. That's what I think, at least.
I agree. And also, it's kind of like, without getting too political, is you can't help but sort of see the manufactured, in my opinion, like culture war in this hobby, like every other space kind of happening right now, where like I've always discussed this with people politically, where I feel like the vast majority of people kind of fall in sort of like a middle sort of political spectrum, whether it's like slightly to the right or slightly to the left, right? And we can find that sort of like mid ground and stuff. But at the moment, in society in general, whether it's like a political space or whatever, there feels like, again, these massive counterpoint swings where, people can really be hurtful just based on their political kind of like leanings and stuff. And it feels like a lot of media is kind of either adapting to like new world principles or not. And 40k is kind of a part of that. We were kind of talking with Quipster recently concerning like, and I hate again to use the word female, but like the female custodes like craziness going off, right? Where that was way bigger of a deal than I think a lot of people expected, and it kind of again brought out the I hate to use extreme sides of both arguments, but like a lot of people got really, really vocal about that. Yeah. And to be honest, there was a lot of toxicity there where, people were like, oh, it's changing the law and stuff. And, we've discussed this at great length, and not to like put my political cards on the table, but it just got a bit silly after a while, where it was just like, everyone chill the fuck out. It's toy soldiers, man. Like, come on. The law's an ever changing like universe and stuff. And it's just weird.
I think that there's also something else that causes quite a lot of discussion and division, and that is that fundamentally Games Workshop is a business first, and it's trying to make money for its shareholders, right? And I think that flies in the face a lot of the time of kind of the product and almost the kind of face that they try to portray, because they're kind of trying to hold up two masks. They're like, oh, we're earning lots of money for our shareholders, but then they're also like, oh yeah, we're a really cool company that like really appreciates our devoted fan base. And those don't mesh too well sometimes, because they have to make decisions which will fuck over the other and vice versa. And I think that they tend, understandably, to make the decisions to benefit the shareholders. And that has pissed a lot of people off and created quite a lot of arguments online about various things, pricing and whatever it is, release schedules and all this sort of stuff. And so again, that causes a lot of like these vocal arguments around the hobby. And it has been quite a big driver of that lately, I think, especially because we had loads of delays around COVID, around the Suez Canal. There was problems, and that caused more people to get pissed off. So you do get that. But I don't know. We've said this a few times, and I'm kind of hoping that Games Workshop is slowly learning to adapt to the modern way of thinking and slowly getting a little bit better at handling their social network side of things, because they've not always been the smoothest in the way they handle stuff. It's like, again, female custodies replying to posts with things that just have inflamed the argument massively. Instead of putting out the fire, they've basically just thrown petroleum on the fucking thing. So, that kind of doesn't help. But they need to get a bit wiser with that. It does create a bit of a drama sometimes.
Yeah, ironically, though, GW are more transparent than they ever have been in the past.
Oh, for sure.
Like, if we go back to like the 90s and 2000s and stuff, like that organization was tight-lipped, dude. You didn't know when a new edition was coming out, whether certain factions would even be supported. Like, I'm kind of referring to Bretonians in fantasy sitting on an army book for like 2 or 3 editions, right? And like, we get release schedules these days. We get like sort of like community days or like news for when there's a big old event happening, like, some sort of tournament, and then they'll release some like pre-releases for that and be like, look at new shit. And, on one hand, I totally agree with you where like, I think they just need to employ more savvy social media teams that can reply to comments a little bit more sort of corporate. But equally, they're really great with their community like posts and like news.
They just need to sort their fucking
nowadays.
websites out now. They've just redone their websites and they are both dog shit. Like, Games Workshop, if you're listening, hire a fucking web designer that knows what he's doing next time. Yeah, next time, please. Or like just, I don't know what went wrong. Like, there was a miscommunication somewhere. That it's all just a fucking nightmare. Like, there's certain things that still to this day baffle me. Like, every time you go onto the Games Workshop website, it asks you what country you're in every 5 seconds. Why is it still doing that? Stop. You know what country I'm in. I'll put it in. Remember it. It's fucking stupid.
Which, if I'm honest, right, is weird because it then just makes you want to buy from third-party places. Not as in like third-party miniatures, but like
Element Games or whatever.
Or like Wayland or whatever, right? And that's not core for their like the one that's really weird is their community page now, where I'm just like, oh my days,
like an old forum.
That was one of my favorite websites. But that's one of my favorite websites, and still is to some extent. I do log on, like I do check it out and stuff, but I had nothing but praise for the Warhammer community website, where I'm like, this is great. Like the articles are great, and it keeps me informed, and it keeps me up to date on what's going on. It allows us to do like our news like section of the channel and stuff. But like, goddamn, that new version of that's like also looks terrible. And I'm like, why did you have to do that? Like, that was unnecessary. That just seemed unnecessary. So I don't know. And like, again, look, we're getting pissed off again with what GW have done. So like, again, like we're both quite passionate about this.
because we've got expectations of what these websites are and have been in the past. And I think that's why it's ticked a load of people off, same as it has us, because we want these things to be functional and to work. But yeah, clearly all passionate. I think that's the main thing. Like, passion is what incites all of this. And I think it's generally comes from a good place. Although there are some people who take it down a road that they shouldn't do, for sure, like, and inflame the situation. But again, they're just defending their viewpoints, right?
We do need to talk at some point about the most... This is quite controversial, we won't do it now, but the most toxic community members.
Oh, fucking hell, name and shame? You can make a witch hunt, can't do that.
Maybe one day. I mean, maybe, we'll see.
Okay.
Well, we'll sit on that. Maybe for maybe a Patreon exclusive episode.
Maybe.
Anyway, there we go. Cool. So Ed's gonna kill me after this. He's gonna be like, what was that? What was that about? Cut it. I've got some names. Right, okay, so we'll move on to something a bit more light-hearted.
Yes.
Painting techniques. It's been a while since we've done like a painting thing, and it's good to talk about it. We have a potential guest on the horizon who will be all about this painting malarkey, but we won't tell you who that is yet. But we have another guest booked soon. But best painting techniques to master in general, like for hobbyists, new hobbyists, expert hobbyists, whatever. Like what are the best painting techniques to master? I'll let you go first, Ed. What do you reckon,
Yeah.
mate?
I think, as you know, if you've been a fan of the show and you've listened to any of our previous episodes, I am a big contrast fan, and I use them for washes as well as for base layers, etc., etc. But I think that like controlling contrast and washes with your brush is really integral to getting them right, because they can be really, if you just blob them on, they're just going to dry with all these big old lumpy blotchy spots everywhere, and you just end up in a mess. And also, if you do like a big armor panel and you start doing this, you'll end up with like a dry water line almost along the edge of it. So there are certain techniques that you can find which will help. It's all to do with the directionality of the brush. You've got to go in a way that controls the paint where you want the darkest point to end up. So if you have like a small armor panel and you want the sort of darker low lights to be near the bottom, that's great, because gravity's going to do that for you, and you can basically start at the top and bring that down on your brush, and then you'll end up with it. But you also then need to remember to soak off a little bit of that excess, because otherwise it's going to dry too dark. And the same sort of thing with like big armor panels. I always find the best way to do it is to start in a corner and kind of work out like almost in an umbrella focused kind of way, so that you basically, you've already started in a corner. So if it dries there first, it doesn't matter if there's a line, because you're already on a line, and then you work out in broader and broader till the panel is done. And basically what you're doing is you're progressing that what would dry as a waterline. You're kind of progressing it continuously, so it never actually dries as a waterline. And then you end up at the other sides of the panel. And you then, at that point, you've kind of done the whole thing. It should be a little bit wet at that point, depending on the size of the panel, obviously. And then that's where you can kind of move, using your brush, move it to the edges of those sort of parts of the panels, or the details on there, if you've got some like chipping or whatever it is. So it's a tricky one, but I think that it is an important thing to learn to control those brushes with contrast. Otherwise, you're just going to end up with a hot mess, blobby shit everywhere, and water lines all over your model. So that's my first one. I think it's a good one.
Just to kind of support that, like, that was really insightful for me, because contrast is still not a really crucial part of my painting thing. I use a couple of contrast paints that are my essentials, but I really rarely use proper contrast paints for what their intended original purpose, right? Washes, I love a bit of washing. Washing's one of my favorite stages. But again, just to reiterate with that is, you've got to like upkeep your washing. You can't just like dump a load of wash on your miniature then walk away. You need to kind of like sit and just make sure that shit isn't clumping, and have a wet brush there just to kind of take any excess away, because the worst thing you do is like exactly is come back to a model and there's like a hard bit of wash stuck on the foot or something somewhere or whatever. So that's the worst. On a complete opposite thing to something wet, we got something dry now. So dry brushing, but true dry brushing, you kind of ironically have to do a little bit wet. But dry brushing, I think, is like a absolute essential technique that everyone needs to learn how to do. We iterated before, like, how important dry brushing can be, but like, honestly, to do it properly, you really have to think about it and have a nice thing to actually dry brush upon, whether that's a made dry brush palette or a wooden one or whatever. But honestly, the amount of work that you can do with dry brushing alone is remarkable, like absolutely remarkable. It gets such a great effect. Artist Opus do so many great videos on this, and their dry brushing,
they're really good.
Brushes are absolutely brilliant. But vehicles, that's how I do like the vast majority of vehicles, because you don't want uneven patchiness when it comes to like doing massive broad armor panels. And dry brushing really helps, and also stippling battle damage and stuff on is kind of a similar ilk in terms of that. What's your opinion of dry brushing, Ed?
No, I think it's great. I think, honestly, if you're a new painter, you can just get away with basing your models black with like a Chaos Black, or use the another brand of spray or whatever. You can do that. You can dry brush them, and you can wash them, and mostly you're pretty much there. You can even use a bit of contrast and then dry brush on top of the contrast. Like, that's what I do a lot of the time, and it works really well, especially for flesh tones and that sort of stuff. So I think the one point to make about dry brushing is to always try and use the biggest brush you can get away with, because it just makes it go easier. Sometimes you'll need a tiny brush to get in there, because some models you just can't get a big brush in, and it'll just damage the model, or it'll get it all over the wrong things. So that is tricky sometimes. But if you can't afford Artis Opus brushes, which are great, you can just go on Amazon and just buy a load of cheap makeup brushes, and they're absolutely fine. They'll do the job. You'll burn through them, but they do the job. They won't last as long. But if they're a quid each, who gives a shit, right? So, because I'm a dry brush destroyer. I don't know what it is. I obliterate dry brushes. I don't know why. It's just my technique.
Your suppressed
Maybe I'm a bit
rage.
rough with them.
It's just like,
yeah. I just
destroy
destroy. I go through them. So I'm always asking my wife or other people, like my sister or my mum, for like, any makeup brushes you've got that you don't want, that are like not great anymore. I have them. Give them to me. Just nick an old makeup brush.
Give it to me, baby.
Yeah, exactly.
No, fair. Absolutely fair. But in terms of getting stuff on the table quick, dry brushing is
great
the way forward.
technique. Yeah.
Experiment with it.
Also,
and
really good for
the
basing.
Oh, yeah, true. Yeah, basing is essential with dry brushing. But
Yeah.
Over the top of a colour forged primer. Bing!
Yeah.
We're not actually sponsored by Colour Forge, but we're just trying to get that in because I love them so much.
They are great, honestly. I used them
Wow,
for one of the
Colour
first times
Forge.
recently. I used their white Colour Forge spray on my GSC, and I'm super impressed. And I tell you why. Whenever I use normal GW primer, if you've got like sharp, pointy claws or whatever, it always gets knocked off right on the tips. But this one's really sticks. Like, I've been moving it around and knocking it on the mat and stuff, and it hasn't come off the tips of the claws, which is insane. Like, I was like, fuck, this is really good stuff. So I'm impressed. Genuinely.
Is this our weekly Colour Forge advert?
Yeah.
Like,
Colour Forge, sponsor us.
Oh, please give us a signature paint. I just love that they're British based, which is lovely because I get to support another British company, which is really cool. They're cheaper than GW and they're bigger. They're like 30% bigger. Or something.
If you were going to sponsor a colour, what would you call it?
Yeah.
What would you call it?
Us,
I've got one. Yeah, for us, I know what it would be.
Creamy nights. Creamy,
yeah, it'd be a cream colour, but we'd call it dropped yogurt.
Dropped yogurt. That'd be too gross for that. That'd be way too.
Nah,
gross.
fuck that.
Right,
go on. Sorry.
I do have a new favourite colour primer though, and it's Dead Animal Bits.
Yeah, you said about Dead Animal Bits. Is it like a browny kind of like muddy brown?
It's basically a slightly darker Rakarth flesh colour.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
I love it for my Death Guard. Love it for my Word Bearers. Love it for any Skelly Bobs. It's beautiful. Beautiful primer. It goes on like butter.
I mean, at this point,
stunning.
I might as well make my second point primers, right? Because primers. It seems like a thing that isn't a technique, but actually it is a real important technique to get right. Like, you need to prime your models properly, because if you do it too close or you do the sprays for too long, you'll end up losing all the detail on the model, or you'll get all that sort of bubbly spotting. It's actually, a slightly weather dependent as well, because obviously if it's raining, you can't really prime. But if it's like too windy, or if it's too like damp outside, it can affect the way your primer goes on. So I think I always used to do it like either in like just outside of a doorway or near the house in a corner or something where the wind can't really get to you, because obviously you need ventilation, because you should be really wearing a mask anyway, because you don't be breathing that shit in. But like, I just do, sort of 20-30 centimeters away, and I just sort of blast like little kind of blasts and just turn the model. And I normally do it so that I hold the base of the model at the front. I do an all-round sort of pass of the model on the base. Then I put it down, carry on with all the rest of them. And then I come back, and what I do is I then turn the model around 180, hold the base at the back, and then I spray it again. So now I've resprayed where my thumb was on the base rim, and I've also sprayed it from a different angle. So I've kind of caught all the bits that I missed originally, and also then doubles up and gives you that extra layer of like, good primer. I wouldn't go more than 2, generally speaking, but like that with the Colour Forge was amazing. They looked so good, didn't lose any detail. Super, super important process to get right, and wear a glove as well.
Yeah, I'm just reading the instructions on the side of this can of
Mhm.
Reliquary Red by Colourforge, and it says that you need to do it at a specific 15 to 25 Celsius. You need to shake it like fuck. So shake your
I
primer
always shake it like
for
fuck.
ages. Shake it for a long time. Long time. Don't get too close either. Like if you're too close to your minis, you're going to destroy your detail. Honestly,
Yep.
I'm part of quite a few community groups online, and like the amount of how have I done something wrong when like the detail destroyed from priming ineffectively is just madness. It's just so many posts that happen like daily about it. And turn your, I don't know if you do this, Ed, but turn your primer upside down and spray for a couple of seconds so it clears the pipe out or whatever, or does it, which is cool. But just take your time with it.
Exactly. And don't stress if you fuck one up. Like, do a test model. If you're new to the hobby and you're priming for the first time, do a test model. Follow the instructions on the can. Have a look at it at the end of it when you finish. And if you fucked it up completely and it's all like lost all its detail, don't stress. Just get yourself some isopropanol alcohol, or whatever you can Google products to remove paint. There's loads of them. Just dunk it in that, scrub it off with a toothbrush, and start again, and it will get rid of it all. So you won't lose your model. So don't stress too much.
I've got a really funny point on that as well, and this is a Duncan Rhodes point, which I found hilarious with a painter as experienced as Duncan Rhodes. Check what your can is before you fucking spray. This sounds so obvious, right? But double check what's actually in that can before you spray.
I've never fucked that up.
He said once,
fucking hell.
No, well, yes, you say that, but the funny one was that he said that like the Militarum varnish and the not Stormhose Silver, but
the metal,
you know where this is going.
Metal,
Lead Belcher have exactly the same color from GW. And what happened in the Two Thin Coats office is that they were going to finish their model with varnish, and instead coated it with fucking Lead Belcher.
No,
and accidentally covered a beautifully painted model in Lead Belcher at the end of a painting project. Is that horrific, right?
Jeez,
and that would be the ultimate fuck you. Isn't it?
Oh my God.
It? So check what's on your fucking label before you spray.
Me.
Sounds so obvious,
varnishing.
But like,
Goodness
that's mega.
I
mega
airbrush
important.
Varnish, so I don't have that problem. But like,
interesting. I rattle can varnish.
Yeah.
The last one that I want to make on this is have a very clear highlight spectrum before you proceed. So what I mean by that is what I tend to do is when I'm doing edge highlighting, and this is like a more intermediate technique potentially, right? But I always line up all of my colors that I'm edge highlighting with just for consistency in case I forget the orderation of my highlighting and I do different units inconsistently. And I kind of like blend up the colors quite extreme, not heavy metal extreme, but like I 50% each step. So for example, with my Dark Angels with their green edge highlighting, my base coat is like Werven green, which is essentially Caliban green. And then a 50-50 emerald green, Werven green, then a 50-50 Warbus green, emerald green, and then the spot highlight of Screaming Skull with what was the last step? Warbus green or whatever, my last green.
Yeah.
So I know exactly what my stages are going forward, and I almost like lay them in front of me so I know and I can like blend into them and make notes if you get interrupted with your hobby time. So like, because sometimes when you come back to it the next day, you're like, where the fuck did I get to with this? And you need to like just roughly
this was actually going to be my
at.
last point. So I was going to say, this isn't technically a technique, but painting diaries are something that I've wished I've done sometimes. And I'm so annoyed that I haven't for certain schemes, because all you need to do is open up like a Google document, right? Take a picture on your phone of all of the paints that you are using on a given scheme in order. Okay, that's the best. That's the first thing to do. So just get them all lined up, take a picture. Then write down just in like a paragraph or so of what you're doing, how much you're using, if you're mixing paints, what kind of consistency you're making, ratios, etc. Just write down the process above that picture save it as your scheme, and put a picture of the model that's the finished version of it next to that, so that you've now got the entire process and what it should look like in front of you, and just save a page as that. And then next time you come to do another army, add a new page to the same document and do that. And then eventually you'll get, because at some point, I guarantee you, you'll paint something, or like 5 legionaries or something for a chaos army. And then 5 years down the line, you'll collect chaos and you'll go, fuck, I can't remember how I did those. Yeah. And then you've got it in front of you. Same scheme. Golden.
Easy.
Yeah. Or if you've got links to videos as well, put that next to them too, like a YouTube video.
That's important. Yeah, I have a playlist on my YouTube of my favorite painting videos so that I can quickly reference them in the future. But I always do notes on the notes of my phone to like remember what I'm doing and in what stages that I'm doing. But recipes are mega important. Like cooking, like keep your recipe diary, because as you quite frankly said, Ed, like you have no idea when you're going to come back to that, and you want everything to be as consistent as possible.
You got a memory like mine.
That's a good one.
It.
That's a really cool one. Yeah, that's a great one, Ed. Thank you for that. That's actually a really good piece of advice.
Well, I was really elaborating on your final sort of point, but yeah, I think it's a really important one for, especially for people starting out, because you will skip about and then you'll go, bollocks, I wish I knew how to do that now. And then you're searching for all your fucking YouTube videos, trying to figure it out, and it's just, save yourself some time.
Yeah, absolutely. Right, that's cool. So now we got a final lore-based topic.
We do.
So we've done one previously that we had a lot of fun with, which is awesome, which was Imperial weapons. Now we're going to do our favourite Xenos weapons. So would you? Should I go first this time? Actually, as you went first.
You go first. Yeah, you go first.
Wicked. Well, I could not bring up the concept of Xenos weaponries without talking about what I consider to be my absolute favourite piece of Xenos tech. Where when I was but a lad, when this unit came out, which was 2002, 2003, when I was playing in that Eye of Terror campaign, I used a hammerhead when it first came out, and upon a hammerhead was a railgun. Oh my days. The railgun is the quintessential soil my trousers gun that should put the fear of the greater good in anybody that it points to, right? And weirdly, I loved in 9th edition that it was also incredibly strong in 9th edition.
Didn't it ignore involves or some bullshit?
Ignored involves and did mortal woundy style damage as well. Like did like spillover damage too.
Those are terrifying in 9th edition. If you were facing down the barrel of one of those, you would just be like, fuck.
As they should be, quite frankly. As they should be, right?
Yeah.
I remember reading a piece of lore. Thank you. I remember reading a piece of lore which basically explained the railgun, where it was like a bunch of Catachans like on patrol or whatever, and like I think they were just like walking through the forest with like a Lehman Russ or Chimera. I can't remember what exact tank it was, and they kind of just heard like a whistle. Yeah. And like all of a sudden, like half the Lehman Russ was like missing, and they were like, "What the fuck is going on?" And they looked, and like the entry hole for one side of the Lehman Russ was like that, and then it just went fractured out, and like half the tank is just missing. Just half the tank is missing, and it almost did it silently at such speed that it like caught up afterwards, where all of a sudden it was like afterwards they were
so
like,
fucking
"What the fuck was that?" So yeah, I think because it launches like a particle at such a fast speed that it just like annihilates.
I just love the idea of this like little guy in the tank, like at the front, still holding the joystick, and then like his rest of his crew and the rest of his tank's just gone, and he's like, "What the fuck?
Fuck was that?"
That's great.
What? So, do you like a railgun, then, Ed?
I fucking love railguns. I think they're so cool. Like they're just. They are, as you said, like the quintessential just fuck you cannon. You know, you just shit your pants when you see one of those on the table. You know, like the Imperial Knights players are all saving their 4-up invuln for those these days. It's just terrifying. What can you do? I assume they don't ignore invulns in 10th anymore. I don't think they do they?
I don't think they do. Back in the day when they first came out in 3rd, they were the ultimate tank killer because they had AP1.
Oh yeah.
And nothing had AP1. Nothing had AP1 that could like bypass anything.
Blow everything.
Dude, like terminate. Dude, it was the best. So I was a cheeky little shit when I was like 13 or 14, and I loved my railgun. And I was just like, pew, pew, just like shooting tanks at it. I felt like a god. It was great. It was great fun.
Point to that and it just explodes. Brilliant.
Yeah, exactly. That dead.
Yeah.
And also, like, I love the idea of like Tau tank aces, like Long Strike.
Yeah.
And like that's their whole shtick. Is like, it's kind of a shame that Long Strike doesn't exist anymore because I love that character.
He's
but like,
cool.
you know, like classic like Hammerhead tank aces that like are like, yeah, we're cool at killing Imperial tanks, man. Like that's a whole shtick. Like brilliant. Like bring it on.
That's
there you go.
Jam,
so I'm gonna put
boy.
my big old Xenos blue penis on the table by saying Tau Railgun.
All right.
There you go.
That's a great start. So I'm going to go, first of all, Necron Heritage. Obviously, got to choose one of their weaponry. So it's Tesla weapons. Now, I think the reason why I love these so much is because I've always been a huge fan of them from like Red Alert 2 and stuff like that. The old Tesla coils. I fucking love it. Yeah. It's so good. Like that. Oh, great. So, yeah, I just think the idea of like... so the cool thing about them is it's like they've got like living lightning. So they can sort of like, you know, bandy it around a little bit. And it's so cool that, you know, the Annihilation barges have got that like rule where they splash it all out and it's sort of like, you know, chain lightning people. I need to try some of those again because they're quite cool. But yeah, I love Tesla. I just love the idea of it just frazzling stuff. It's got absolutely 0 AP, but you just come up to like a group of cultists and you're like, get ready, boys. And Tesla Immortals have been fun this edition as well. Sorry, go on.
I always get genuinely intimidated by how many fucking dice Tesla roll, right? And like,
if you get a few sixes, it's like double exploding sixes.
Yeah.
Oh, fantastic. You can get them like to exploding fives with some things. Oh, here we go. Plasma answers.
Although I love that, like, you get a little bit of culture thrown in there because obviously it's like a reference to Nicole Tesla, right? Which in like, did the Necrons refer to it as a Tesla gun?
Did you call him Nicole Tesla?
Nikola Tesla.
Nicola, yeah. I thought you called him Nicole. I was like, oh, hey.
Nicole. Oh, Nicole Tesla. But does that mean that the Necrons were like aware of Tesla? Am I thinking
clearly
like
they
too deep in this?
him.
Or like, right? Like they're like that human. He knew what was up. Like
maybe he just was, you know, just incidentally, you know, named the weaponry after them because they were around a long time before he was.
Also, fuck you, Edison. It's not an Edison gun, is it? You fucking corporate knobhead.
Yeah.
But there we go.
So that's my first choice. I think that's great. I love Tesla. It's good fun.
I love that. I think you chose wisely and you chose faction loyalty, and I appreciate that. That's very cool. Yes, I'm going to save my fun one till last because I've got 3. So, Shuriken catapults. Like the Eldar signature bolter, essentially, / laser gun / whatever. A weird gun, man. Like the fact that it's called Shuriken anyway is kind of weird because obviously that's a reference to like ninja weapons and stuff from our culture, or whatever. But the fact that it fires like solid particle-y kind of like actual like a physical thing. And the fact that it's adapted for all of the Eldar weaponry is really cool. And it seems to be quite piercing. Like if you shoot it in the right place, like it can like go through anything, right? Like
is that the one that wounds on when you get a 6 to wound, you get an extra couple of AP or something, right?
Yeah, usually. But it's always been like that, like since Age Dot, right? Shuriken guns have always been like that. That if you roll hot, which I think represents the fact that the Eldar can like pick a weak point in the armor, it can just annihilate you, like absolutely annihilate you. But it's you know, it's scaled up for like all weapons, right? In the Eldar thing, it's very similar in a way, like I said, to like a bolter or something, where you get like heavy variants, but they look really weird as well. They look quite bony and like they're kind of like they're it's very
like they're made of
strange to look at. Are they actually made of wraithbone?
Yeah, I think pretty much all of their constructs are made of wraithbone.
Are they?
Pretty sure. Yeah, they sing them all into existence.
That makes sense.
Yeah, the bone singers.
I mean, that's a very poncy Eldar thing to do, isn't it? Really, God,
It's quite. I quite like the bone singers. They're cool.
They are cool, but just the shape of the gun looks so awesome that it's like quite like sort of curved at the bottom. It's got quite an elaborate kind of looking mechanism. Bone. It does look like xenotech. Like if you were to look at that, you'd be like, "What the fuck is going on here? Like, how do I shoot this?" You know, but like cool, like really, really cool. But there you go. So Shuriken catapults.
So I have to say this because I'm again, it's another Necron one, because it's just a classic thing, which is Gorse weaponry. I love Gorse weaponry. It's what kind of got me into Necrons, I think, early on, because the idea of this sort of like, it's like it almost disassembles you particle by particle, just kind of dusts you away. I don't think that it's kind of as lethal as it used to be en masse, because like with the Warriors, they used to have like kick more AP, and obviously they've lost it mostly now, unless they're right next to Zeraz and stuff. But like the idea of just this, you know, like this endless sort of wave of just shit, like Gorse fire coming out, but then you've also got like the big old Gorse cannons, like the Doomsday cannons and these sort of things that just hit you and will just like evaporate tanks and stuff. It's just such a cool type of weapon. I think that like Tesla and Gorse for Necrons, they absolutely just epitomize them, and it's so cool. Like I can't not mention it. You know, you see it in all these cinematics where like guardsmen get hit and they're just like, and they just kind of.
I was gonna
say, cool.
Yeah, I was gonna say about that like I've never seen a more horrifying gun. Like if I was to get shot by anything, like it would either be Tyrannid guns where it makes something burrow inside me. You know, like a parasite go inside me and like chest burst me or whatever. Right? Yeah, that's scary. Rank. But Gorse stuff, like just like having my like body just tear apart Dusting. In real time. Yeah. It's fucking horrible. It's like so like, fucking horrible. It's
it's terrible.
No, nuts. It's totally nuts. Like not cool, dog. Not
they
cool.
Have some cool tech.
I always think that like they certainly do, as they should, being old boys, right? But like I do think that Gorse stuff should have a pip of AP, and I think that Pulse rifle should have a pip of AP as well. Yeah. Right, like I think they should, because they're both so much better than bolt guns or las guns or whatever. Like they're both, their tech trees are like so advanced in two very different directions. To be fair. But Gorse is cool, mate. That's a great choice. One. Like fuck Gorse, I'll get that shit away from me. I'm cool.
No pass, yeah.
And also kind of very quickly, it also represents like the mechanical versus the biological as well, right? That like that's a very like eradicate-y old man like robot gun where it's like
literally just turns you to like particle dust, very much. Like you are just nothing. You are gone. You've disassembled, which I think is such a cool way to get rid of someone. You're like, I'm just going to disassemble you. Yeah. Hold on.
And very glowy, goes in line with the glowiness of Necron as well. Like, it does. Weren't they the old like the sort of plastic glowy rods?
Yes, the plastic tubes, the green ones. Yeah, they were Gorse guns. Yeah, old school.
Does anything in the Necron range still have those?
No.
Anything in the Necron range?
You can obviously buy the old minis. That like the old school Warriors still have them. But now, even on the Locust destroyers, which used to have them too, they've actually just replaced them with plastic rods from the same sprue, because you used to have a little green sprue that they put in there, but now they've just added them into the sprue, and they're just grey plastic, and you just paint them. So it's part of the model now, sadly. Yeah.
See, I don't know how I feel about that. A part of me is like, no, I love an old school Gorse glowy rod.
Yeah, they were cool.
Awesome.
They were cool. Yeah.
There we go. So I guess my final choice. Now, you don't even know what this is, do you? Because
I don't know.
What if I was to say a power snap? What would you think a power snap is, Ed?
I found
this very amusing.
Snap. Like a little crab claw, like a power claw. Go on, tell me.
You're very close. It's a weapon used by a very specific part of Orc society, right?
Right.
Power snaps are utilized by doctors like big old Orc doctors, like what are they called, the Mad Docs or whatever, right? Like the crazy
Mad Doc Grotznik was one of them. I know
the noble ones.
Yeah. Oh, it'll come to me.
But they're used they're used exclusively by orc docs as a power clawy kind of weapon, but mostly to do surgery on their own mushroom boys, and to replace their bottom half with a motorcycle half, or replace replace a limb with a massive power claw, or whatever, or a peg leg or something.
Leg.
I don't know if you ever heard of a game called Gorkamorka, Ed. Did you know of a
Yes,
game
I have
called
heard of Gorkamorka, yeah. Pain Boy, that's what they're called.
Pain Boys, that's the one. Sorry, everybody. But Pain Boys. In Gorkamorka, it was basically like a Necromunda style game, just including orcs. And Mad Doc Grotznick first appeared in that game, and you could buy Gorkamorka parts for your orcs that were like, as I say, like an iron lung, or like a bottom half, just singular fucking wheel for the bottom half of the thing, or like just stupid shit. And like that was the whole point, that like when you went into the Mad Doc, you get like a random roll of like what crazy implant
cyborg
you would get given
body
on
parts.
your boy or whatever. Yeah, whatever, man. Like whatever. And I think that represents for me orcs perfectly, where it's a horrific weapon that would like cut a regular human being in half, right? Like just fucking straight out murk 'em. But also represents like the frivolity of life in orc culture, and just having a laugh, innit? It's just having a laugh.
We're having a
Just
laugh,
whatever.
mate.
Just having a laugh, mate. You're having a laugh. Power snaps. That's my final choice. I thought you'd find that at least a little bit amusing.
Yeah, I like that. I'm going to also go for an orky one, because the orcs always have more fun. And that is possibly one of the most stupid weapons in the whole game, the shock attack gun, which basically sucks up grots and other stuff like that, and then opens up like a teleport. It teleports them through the warp, basically into their target. So you suddenly just have like a grot just in your chest cavity, which will then explode, because obviously there's a huge amount more matter there than there was a second ago. Can you imagine just a space marine being like, "For victory!" and then just this grot just explodes within them and just instantly kills them.
Going,
it's terrifying. Yeah. Also, the model's got one of the coolest sculpts ever, where it's like it's like hoovering a grot up, and he's like scrabbling along the floor. It's just great.
I need to see this. I haven't seen
You've not seen
this.
it?
That's
it's
cool.
an absolutely classic model. It's a big old it's got like a big sort of teleporty thing on the end of it. I just love it. So yeah, shock attack gun for me, I think, is one of the all-time bests. It's GOAT.
Orcs are so weird in general, where like on one half they are hilarious. They're just like so live for the moment, YOLO-y, we've got such stupid tech for obvious reasons, of the fact that they believe it exists, right? So like cool. And it's so stupid, and it's almost like comedic relief in this setting, right? But equally, they're also quite horrifying. They're also kind of scary. It's kind of scary, right? Like, as you say, if you were like on the battlefield, it's one thing to have your head blown off or whatever, or to be shrapnel to pieces or whatever, and that in and of itself is horrifying. But to have a screaming grot like shoved through you, and just like, dude, what a way to go! Like, what a way to go!
It's terrifying.
And like, I don't know, man.
Quite terrifying.
That represents the orcs
as well sometimes. Like, if you've ever been staring down the barrel of like 100 boys running at you, it's a certain feeling in in Warhammer, where you're like, I might be fucked here. I might be fucked. It's terrifying. Just get overwhelmed.
I'll be honest, I felt that the hard way recently too, where like I got stomped by orcs one game, where I was just like, oh my god, like fuck, like this is a heartache to kind of like priority destroy, because everything looks the same.
It's one of those sort of things. Like, I think when you're playing 40k, sometimes like it's an interesting one when you're like competitively, you sort of reveal one or two units here and there to shoot with. But then actually you think to yourself, well, if I've revealed one or two units, I might as well just fucking reveal everything and just run at them, because they got to still, they're still only going to kill one or two units. But now they're staring down the barrel of the rest of my fucking army. And that's what orcs kind of do. They just overload the table. They just run at you with this just carpet of shit. And you're like, even if I kill like 3 units here, there's still 6 more coming. Do you know what I mean? What am I going to do?
And the rest.
Yeah.
I think there are only a couple of armies for me in 40k that give that immediate intimidation factor, right? One is Imperial Guard, because you look at Imperial Guard armies and you go, how many fucking tanks is that? Like that obscene. There's like 10 or 12 tanks just staring you down, and you're like, oh my god, how am I going to chew through this? And the other is the opposite of that, where it's just pure rabble, which is orcs. So you're just like, oh my god, like, how am I going to chew through this as well?
Because they're just so fucking quick and they just run at you.
World Eaters. Any sort of Primarch size models as well also shit you right up, right? But orcs, there's a primal bit of you there that's like, oh god. I guess the same with Nids as well, right? Where it's the same kind of thing. It's just all gribbly.
They used to have some really fun swarm builds. Yeah, you could do.
Yeah.
You don't see it as much.
Or Crush a Stampede, big lads. Yeah, I mean, Tyranids are weirdly unrepresented. Like considering.
I think it's because they made it so you can only use the strat like to bring back a unit once per game now. And the same for Guard with their bringing back people. It's a bit rough. I think it makes sense for Guard and less so for Tyranids, but also they can be a bit oppressive if they keep doing it. It's because you just kill like a whole squad and then it's straight back, and it's every turn they're using it. So they're getting like 500 points in their army or like 300 points in their army. It's just not. It gets a bit too silly, I think.
Yeah. You need some internal balance there. I think recurring units in general can be quite game breaking if handled badly. Yeah, I mean,
hopefully they're going to change the Genestealer Colts army rules soon. Apparently they hinted at the fact that they will. So we'll see what they do with that. I'm intrigued. Because it's a bit garbo on a dice roll, because it either makes you feel great and your opponent feels shit, or you feel shit and your opponent may feel great because your units aren't coming back. And maybe they'll go to like a token system or something where you get like tokens you could use on units or something per game. That'd be interesting. We'll see what they do.
Well, I think we're going to have a massive shake-up soon, because I think normal Space Marines are going to get a massive buff as well that aren't like any known chapters, like the Dark Angels or the Blood Angels or whatever. I know for a fact.
Oh, do you?
A massive boost.
Okay. Look forward to that.
So there you go. So
exciting.
There you go. See. Right. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Ed, my absolutely beautiful co-host. Thank you.
Thank you, my stunning co-host, Russ. And guys, please do give us a comment down below if you've got any cool Xenos weapons that you would like to mention. And obviously, give us a like, give us a subscribe. It does all help slowly build the channel up and get us out there to more people. And just share us amongst your friends as well. If you think we're cool and you like what we're saying, just give us a share amongst your mates and get us out there, because we are slowly growing. We've finally hit 50 subscribers. We're over that now, which is the first sort of big threshold we wanted to break. So it's a hundo next, which is exciting. So yeah, we're onwards and upwards. It's going well, and we're loving it.
We're clawing out of the dirges of like underworld YouTube land, right? Where it's just like and then we'll be fine. But it's just like getting out of this initial like
it takes a long time, but we're in it for the long haul because we love doing it every week, and it's great fun.
We ain't going nowhere. And check out the Quips to Spesh.
Yeah.
Check out the Quips to Spesh, because that was really fun to do. And have a great time hobbying, folks. We'll see you in a week.
See you next week, guys.
Ciao.
Ciao.